Hi, and welcome. On today's show, we have our guest, Lori Pappas. From a traumatic childhood to becoming an award winning entrepreneur, philanthropist, and now acclaimed author, her story is one of resilience, transformation, and triumph. Her new book, The Magic of Yes, Embrace the Wise Woman Within, invites readers to explore her inner strength, rediscover their essence, and chart a life filled with authenticity and purpose. Drawing on her life lessons and enriched by inspiring stories from women worldwide, The Magic of Yes is both a memoir and a guide. Pappas details how she overcomes psychological trauma, navigated career reinvention, and ultimately created a life of profound meaning, helping over 100,000 marginalized individuals through her charitable efforts in Africa. As I reflect on my journey, one truth remains clear. Saying yes to curiosity and self discovery is a gateway to wisdom and fulfillment. A quote by Pappas. She also says, I wrote this book to empower others to embrace their own wise women within and find the magic in their lives. Also, Lori Pappas has led a remarkable life as an entrepreneur, mentor, and philanthropist. Her early experiences fueled her drive to redefine her beliefs and chart a life of success and service. In her 50s, Pappas founded a transformative charity in Africa, impacting lives through water, sanitation, literacy, reproductive health, and women's empowerment initiatives. Now in her 70s, Pappas inspires others through her reflections and storytelling. I'd like to welcome Lori Pappas to the show, and I'd like to proceed with Miss P.
Excellent, excellent. We are so grateful and we are so honored to have. Yeah, I know I always interview queens, but we got the master queen herself. Thank you so much to the moderator, my daughter, for introducing her. We thank you. And we are going to go ahead and move on with this interview. First of all, congratulations on this wonderful book. Oh my goodness. I'm going to give you the honor to actually tell us the name of the book and the origin of the book. Why did you decide to start a book, this particular, or your career at the age of 75? Could you enlighten us, let us know what's going on so we don't have to walk around in this world saying, I am too old?
Well, I have to tell you, I'm always shy. I just think it's a hoot that I'm 75, almost 76, because I forget about it until I stand up. And then all of a sudden it's, oh, yeah, there's some creaking going on. Um, it's really wonderful. I have to say that I think this moment in time is my highest learning period of my life. It is so fantastic. And the other thing that's so cool about it is I have the time to reflect on what it is I'm learning. So to dial into your question, you wanted to know the origin story of the magic of yes. Well, I had sold my business when I was 49 and I failed retirement. I tried, I gardened, I planted 3,000 plants in my garden because, of course, I did. I'm an overachiever. And I volunteered, I tried to play golf, all that stuff. And none of it really gave me any sense of fulfillment. One of the wonderful things, though, that I was able to do was I was able to travel. In those travels, I spent quite a bit of time in Africa. And one day I was out in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And instead of following the rest of the group, I hung back because I saw these children. And there was this little girl that reminded me of my granddaughter because she was the same age. But this little girl was dressed in rags and she was carrying a sibling. And I realized at that time that that little girl could have been my Ella, my precious little granddaughter. And Ella had done nothing special to be my granddaughter. I mean, it was just the luck of the draw. And this little girl had done nothing wrong to be born into this disease-ridden life. So I, it just touched my heart. And to see this little girl with her flies on her eyes, I then knew what my next purpose in life was. And that was to see what I could do to help other people have a chance to have a healthy life. So, being the overachiever that I am, I thought, well, I was a successful entrepreneur. Of course, I could start another business. And I started an international charity. Little did I know what I was getting myself into. It was difficult hiring people, it was difficult motivating them. I had real issues with the government. I worked with the most marginalized people in the world down in the southwest corner of Ethiopia. And by the end of the day, because most of my time was spent up in Addis Ababa, the capital, which is like a mile and a half high. So even though it's hot during the day, it's cold at night. And the house I rented had a lot of leaky windows and doors and such. And so I would get home at night exhausted from trying to communicate and dealing with government officials and so forth. And I would put on all the clothes I had and bundle myself up. And then most of the time, there'd be no electricity. And all I would have would be the light of my 3 candles. So I wasn't able to read and I could no longer be doing. And I had to just be. And I started thinking about all the wonderful experiences I had. And I started thinking about what I was observing with these very, very marginalized people, how they had nothing, but yet they found happiness and how collaborative they were. And I started thinking, well, what if I said yes to just being and not just relied on all my doing? What if I just said yes and let myself relax into it and start organizing my thoughts and my reflections and all the wonderful experiences and knowledge I had gathered. And as I started saying yes to myself, then that became the origin of the magic of yes. But one thing that did happen was that after 7 years after I left Ethiopia, I finally got the energy to start writing my book. And with that, then I I started writing it, but then I keep asking myself, I don't want to just tell a story about me. I want I want to be able to have other women be able to get to the same place that I'm at. I want them to be able to experience joy and peace and to find harmony in their life. And
That is
so I'm sorry.
that's excellent. It's just you just what you're saying. Finish your thought. I just thought it was
Well,
everything that you're saying is wow.
yeah. And so what really was wonderful for me is the publisher. I had signed a contract with a publisher, but I still got had my book in my possession for 4 months. And during those 4 months, I kept saying, well, how does this really resonate with others? And so I added stories of other extraordinary, ordinary women that exemplified the message of a chapter. And then I thought, well, what is somebody going to take away? I mean, how is this book going to make a difference in somebody's life? And as so often happens when I'm out walking my dog, I had a moment of clarity and I came up with this dream framework because we all have dreams. And I thought, well, let's take dream as an acronym and let's take D as desire. What do I really want? And then let's take R as reflect. And so what are the kinds of things I should be thinking about that will help me reach this dream? And then the E is explore. What kinds of things should I explore that I might want to consider? And then, of course, there's always a piece that you need to acknowledge, the A, because, face it, sometimes life just sucks. It does. And you might want to dream something and go someplace, but you're just in a real sucky situation. And
Yes.
so,
Mhm.
what is it that you can do that's still your choice? Because we all have choice. We have a choice if we're going to be a victim or fall into a victimhood. What are we going to
Like that.
do? How are
I
we
like
going to
that.
deal with it?
Yes. And
You know,
Lori, much more, we don't want to give them everything in that book, but I thank you for what you explained. What we want them to do is I'm gonna get around the book, but we really want them to go out there and order the book. Could you please take a moment to tell them where is this wonderful book available? And if you have a copy with you, could you if you don't, it's fine. You just show
I
them?
just happen to have a fair number of copies with me. Believe me, it's not an issue. Here, let me just grab it.
Please do so.
Okay, so it's The Magic of Yes, Embrace the Wise Woman Within, and you can find it really anywhere online. It's the easiest thing to find everything that I'm talking about is to
Yes.
go to my website, and that's just loripappas.com. And I'm sure it'll just be in the show notes, or we can make sure that people have it. But if
Yes,
you
we
just
will
type
have it.
in,
We
yeah,
will have it in the description for everybody, just in
okay,
case you missed it. And I heard you loud and clear. You was in Ethiopia. Could you
right,
please share with the audience? Because it sounds like I don't know if you was humble before Ethiopia or when you got there. Where are you originally from? And could you tell us how long you spent in Africa?
sure. Well, I'm a American citizen, and I grew up in the U.S. I grew up in Minnesota, and my business was in Minnesota. And when I sold it, then I moved out to Washington State. And from there, I moved over to Africa. Um, that was when I moved there when I was 57, and I had to leave when I was 67 because it was getting unsafe. And that was in 2016. So, um, and we'll get to there's a story from how I left Ethiopia and what happened with that. But right now we were talking about the book origin.
Right, and I got some questions for you on that. And
Okay.
but I have no problem if you can briefly tell us about what happened when you left, and then we go straight into the books. Is that fine? I mean, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
sure.
hear
That's
this.
just
I
fine.
definitely gonna hear this. Go ahead.
Okay. So when I left Ethiopia, okay, what happened with that was two things. One was my purpose over there was to figure out how these very marginalized people could have a chance to have a healthy life. And that's why we did so many initiatives in water and female reproductive health and orphanage, environment, schools, all of that. And just once pretty much coincided the time when I had all those initiatives going. At the same time, the country, it really got into a tremendous amount of conflict you might have heard about, and it really became unsafe for me, a single woman, to be running an organization in a country at war. And it was not practical, or really, I didn't think it was very fair that the embassy would have to worry about keeping me from becoming a hostage, because I really was a pretty good hostage target. And also at that time, um, my I'd already had two failed marriages, and I had sworn I never ever wanted to get involved with another partner again. And but I was getting bored during the day, and my daughter said, "Well, Mom, why don't you try online dating? Because then you're going to control the delete key, and it'll give you something to do." And I said, "Okay." So I tried that for a couple months and got bored with it because, face it, here I am, a white woman. I had a bunch of very indigenous black people kissing me on the cheek with mud in their hair, and I had an orphanage full of black babies, and um, there's well, I don't have to tell you, there's a lot of discrimination out there, and um, and I wasn't getting very many matches, so I thought, well, to hell with that, I'll just go on, and I was on leave back in Minnesota, and my granddaughter was over, and we were looking for something to do, and my daughter said, well, why don't you go see if you can find Ella a grandpa online? And I said, well, okay, we'll just take a look. And lo and behold, this guy had seen my picture and profile and decided that he was going to woo me. And my husband now was an old time campaign manager, and I became his campaign. And he's used to winning. Oh, and
Oh
I'll tell
my
you,
goodness.
the first time I met him, I said, now don't you dare think don't even talk about marriage. There's no way in heck I want to get married. He said, you know what? We'll just be unfettered and free together. I thought, well, it's a good line. And who knows, I got married and here I am 8 years later, happy as a lark.
I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you because listen, being a coach counselor, I have talked to some of my team members, even my clients, my mentees, and we discuss online dating. And some of them said, no, 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 no. And some of them had success. So, I mean, they have no excuse now because you was
Well,
how
it's
old
funny.
when you got married to this gentleman?
67. He was 75. And I really didn't want to get hooked up with somebody that old. But here we are.
Wait. Y'all had to be tech savvy. Did your granddaughter or daughter who handle all of that? Are you were able to handle all of the dating stuff that you go on the online or on your phone?
There's nothing to handle. I mean, it's like one or two keys. Now, come on, Phyllis.
But
This
no,
is
listen,
not.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Lori. But it is so many people out there that's over 50, and they say, "Hey, is there anybody on the site that is over 50?" And this man was your husband's 75 years old. I think that is so beautiful. I love. Everybody know me. I'm a love fanatic, and that is so beautiful. Could you give a shout out? What is his name?
Bill Butcher.
Excellent, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. We are so grateful and thankful for him because your smile is letting everybody know what's going on. Okay, so we
Yeah,
treating you like a queen. And also let's go dive into the book a little bit. What I want to know from you, Lori, is it's a couple things that we have here. The book is fine. I got through some parts of the book. I encourage everybody to go get the book. Me and her have so much in common. We talk about things that's within and your self-awareness, self-love. As you know, my podcast is Self Whisper Unplugged. Tell me something about the connection to some form of higher power. Could you tell me that?
sure. Because that was a difficult journey for me. My mother was a religious fanatic, and she thought I was possessed by the devil, and that caused all kind of trauma in my life. And her religion didn't make sense to me, because I didn't. What I couldn't understand was if people didn't believe like my mother, they were going to go to hell. Well, how fair was that? I didn't get it. I mean, how could that be fair if somebody didn't know? I mean, and the whole thing, even when I was a little girl, I just didn't get it. But I got busy. I was very, very busy. I became an entrepreneur in my early 30s, and I grew that company to be a multi-million dollar company with over 100 employees and sold that. And it wasn't until I was in my 50s that I really had time to think, really, and reflect. And I, I decided that I was not going to agree with my mother's belief system. And I'll tell you what, that was really scary because even though intellectually it didn't make sense and I didn't want any part of it, that early programming really does impact you. Whatever your family system and society has taught you to believe, that's what you do unconsciously and subconsciously.
Yes.
So that period of time, there was about 6, 7 years where I really wasn't anchored to anything. I was in the middle of doing a lot of personal work and becoming aware of who I was, defining my moral compass, um, and trying to become unfettered and free myself, trying to drop my emotional baggage, that type of thing. But I really wasn't hanging on to anything. And then when I was started working over in Ethiopia, it's just clear as day. One day, all these people were gathered up around me. Now, they wear goat skin, the women, and the men, if they wear anything, would be like a pair of shorts. Nobody was bathing. It was very, very hot. And I became overwhelmed with the smell. I remembered that my therapist that I was seeing back home when I was in the States had met a shaman, and she had told the shaman about the work that I did. And I asked, and he said, if she ever needs to reach out for energy from us, just let me know. And I remembered that. And so I had a satellite phone. I gave Sharon a call, and she managed to get a hold of Enrique. And I kid you not, that next morning, I woke up with so much energy and I felt so connected. And it was this community over in Brazil that was sending me energy to the remote area of Ethiopia.
Wow.
And that became my connections. So I happen to, the way that I get my energy is through ascended masters. Now, I very much respect people who get it from Jesus or God or Mohammed or Buddha or the nature or their ancestors. To me, it doesn't matter. What matters to me, though, is we all need to be connected to some source of energy
Mhm.
greater than ourselves.
Excellent. I definitely believe in that. I like the way you explained it. And for the audience out there, Africa it is a part of Africa that is still under what she went through, what she's seen, and with politics and the ruin. But it's also a lot of part of Africa that is the most beautiful place that you ever could experience. So with that being said, it sounds to me that you was discovering your essence. You speak about that. Could you give me more about that, discovering your essence?
Sure. Um, so let me start this way. When when we are first born, I think of it as having a suit slipped over us of supposed tos. And those supposed tos come from our family, from our society, from our culture, but that's what we're born into, are all these supposed tos. And another thing that we women deal with is, how many of you have always heard, well, be good, be a good girl? But what does that mean? Well, it means shut up. It means do what you're told, be compliant, don't talk unless you're spoken to, pick up after yourself, be good. Well, no wonder so many women have a hard time finding their voice, because whoever was applauded by saying, "Oh, yay, you're naughty. I'm so happy you're naughty. I'm so happy you sass. I'm so happy you question me all the time. I mean, that just doesn't happen in our society. In our society, I mean, and then the guys get a get out of jail free card. Oh, boys will be boys, but girls, you be good. And so I really believe that to discover our essence, we really have to break loose of that early programming, that early cloak of supposed to's, that those messages that we received, and bust out. And but the one thing I'd like to say is don't expect to have a strong voice on day one. I mean, day one, your voice is probably a little whisper, and that's good. Just whisper a little bit. And then maybe the next day you can just have that whisper a little bit louder.
Love
And,
it.
just take your time because
I
you're
love
a
it.
toddler. You're a toddler. It's just like you didn't learn the first day you decided to walk, you didn't stand up and walk. You stood up and fell down, but then you picked yourself back up again.
So
And then
excuse
you,
me, Lori,
yeah.
are you saying that when you discover your essence, even if you are 40, 50, 60, 70, you really going back in time in a sense? It's like, is that what you're saying, that you're really becoming a newborn baby, or you're saying you have to take life from the beginning?
Well, what I'm really trying to say is don't expect to be good at a new behavior on day one because it's not going to happen.
So it's a process.
And it's a process. And don't expect to do everything right. Expect to fall flat on your face, but then pick yourself up again and try again.
My daughter
I,
would love you. She love you. My daughter is clapping because she's been telling me this. Everything has to be perfect. I love it. I love it. I love it. So go ahead and finish that thought. Forgive me for interrupting you. And you said that you don't basically have to be perfect. So are you saying that falling flat on your face, is that a humbling experience, or that's what you should expect?
I think you should expect it. And I mean, maybe put a pillow on the floor, but, you know,
Wait a minute,
but
wait, don't go nowhere. Are you saying put the pillow on the floor because it's gonna be a lot of those falling down?
yeah, put a pillow
Yeah.
on the floor. Get yourself some face cream or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you have
Wow.
to be willing to make mistakes. And what I like to tell people is become really good at making a lot of little mistakes real fast. Because if you've got a cycle time of fast little mistakes, and do yourself a favor, don't keep making the same one over and over again. I mean, that really is not the brightest thing in the world. I
I
mean,
agree.
make a little adjustment here and there.
I agree. Because it's like you know what they said, you insane if you around this doing the same thing repeatedly. And I like the way you said it. I'm really gonna steal that from you.
Well, good.
The little mistakes. And with the little mistakes, with falling flat on your face, make sure you have a pillow, and just discovering your essence. How do you, I mean, tell the audience, how do you put that together to have a healthy love a relationship when you got all of these little things and you making them, you making these mistakes, you falling flat?
Well, I mean, for me, I got married the first time at 19, got divorced at 30, got married again at 35, got divorced again at, I don't know what I was, 57, got married again at 67, and finally got married and did it right. But you know what the difference is? Is that when I was first married the first time and the second time, I was at a place in time where I needed to feel loved. I was very needy. Whereas when I met Bill, I didn't need to be married. I didn't need to be in a relationship. I was really happy with me. I knew who I was. I was very self-aware. And my greatest fear was I did not want to lose what I had worked so hard to gain. And so that's why when he said, well, let's just be unfettered and free together, I thought, wow, that sounds really good. And, I don't have to get married or whatever until I didn't even consider it in the beginning. So I don't think you can really get into a really good relationship or really maximize a relationship that you're in until you and your partner have discovered their authentic self and are living their life that is in alignment with their moral compass. And if the two of you happen to have that same moral compass and you're both very comfortable in your own skin, then you have a really good, I mean, it's pretty well guaranteed you're going to have a loving relationship.
Yes, I like that. I really do. Thank you for that. A lot of us needed to hear that. And we're going to go into your book. We're not going to go specifically, but one thing about both of us, I hear a lot of me and you, and especially when you talk about whisper, my company is Self Whisper and my podcast is Self Whisper Unplugged.
Right.
So I always feel like you said the higher energy and power, and everybody have a name, and I call that higher power God. I always feel this connection. We are connected. I agree with you 100%. And you touch some beautiful things in your book. One of them is something that I believe in, and that is so wholeheartedly self care. Can you tell us what's the tips for people feeling guilty saying no?
Let me give you a little story. When Bill and we decided that we were going to move from San Diego up to Northern California on a whim. It happened to be we were on a little trip, and once we decided we were going to do that, we went home, put the house up for sale, and then I got a knee replacement. I mean, all within a week. It was really ridiculous. And my granddaughter flew out and drove us up north, and we were staying in this little B&B that had this slanted floor. Now, Bill has balance problems. He uses a walker. His walker wasn't working right. I just had a knee replacement. My body wasn't working right. And then we were moving into a new house. My granddaughter obviously had to go back to work, and my two girls called me up and said, Mom, can we come out and help you? Now, the supposed to is for me to say yes, please come. But I stopped and I thought a minute and I thought, hey, wait a minute. You know, you don't clean, you don't cook, and you don't eat the same kind of food that Bill and I eat. How is that going to be a help? That's not going to help me. And so I said no.
Yeah.
But it's because I stopped and thought about it. I mean, I was at a point where all of a sudden I could think, well, I know I'm supposed to say yes, but my God, I don't have the energy to take care of you trying to take care of me.
Yes, yes, yes. And that okay, so I can understand. Are you saying you need to put some more on that part? Because I was thinking that you could relate this to when you are the person that's always helping everybody to the point that you don't have no life for yourself. Would you agree with that? I think that that person, so I think we as especially females should know how to say no sometime. What do you think
Right.
about that?
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. And if my husband was sitting next to me, he would be nudging me saying, "See, see, see." But I really have gotten a lot better. I really, really, really have.
Wait a minute. So
Um,
you trying to tell me that was you? That was you? Always?
oh,
But why? Is that because you have a humble spirit and you always want to serve, a servant spirit? Where did that come from, always saying yes, 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 yes?
you know what I think it is? Is I think that for me, for years and years, decades, it kind of went back to my mother thinking I was possessed by the devil. And that really gave me the message, even though I didn't acknowledge it at the time, that I'm not worthy. I'm not I'm not a worthy person. And I think that one of the big driving forces behind all of my achievements was proving that I was worthy. But what I was doing is I was proving that I was worthy professionally, that professionally I could do all this. But there was a gap between the professional me and the personal me. And that personal me still wasn't really feeling and connecting with my essence until I was in my 50s. And so now, to answer your question directly, what do I do? Well, I make sure that every day I go for a 3-mile walk with my dog in the middle of nature. I make sure I go swimming so that that clarifies my mind. And I make sure that I have time to just
Love it.
think. You know,
I
I
love
have to think. If I don't have time and space where there's no noise and I have a real strong need for nature. You know, even when I lived over in Ethiopia and when I was in Addis and there's gazillion people around and it's super noisy and very cluttered, I I had a rock and I had crystals and every night I would fall asleep holding them in my hand. And that gave me great peace.
excellent. That is beautiful. You said something, you mentioned something in your book that kind of caught my eyes, and thank you for sharing that story.
Uh,
You said wisdom is accessible at any age. It is people that will say, I'm at a certain age, I'm 40, I'm 50, I don't need to know any more wisdom. Could you give us some more enlightenment on that?
well, first of all, if somebody's going to say that, I don't think they're very wise. I mean, just flat out, I'm sorry. I mean,
Yeah, I heard it.
I'm just calling a spade a spade. I just
Wow.
don't. I I think that I think all of us are born with kernels of wisdom within us. I know that to be true because we all share DNA. And I know that I'm a wise woman. I know that you're a wise woman. And we share the same DNA. And everybody else in the world shares that DNA. So they have that inside them. Everyone has that inside us. But we have to peel away the layers to find it sometimes. And we have to slow down enough so we can recognize it. And every day I learn something new. And yeah, I'm 75, but I'll tell you, I have a little granddaughter that's 11 and or 10. She's still 10. And she's a very wise little girl because she listens and she watches and she observes and then she thinks. And that's really what it takes to access wisdom is I think the key ingredients are being open-minded, being curious and seeking knowledge, and then reflection. You need all three of those.
Yes, I agree. And I also would like to add of in the late Wayne Dyer used to say, be a student. I really feel like you should be a student.
Mm.
I don't think we arrive. What do you think about that? I think you should always have that student mentality where I'm ready to learn
You know,
even
like
no matter
I
what
started
age.
out, I'm 75, almost 76, and I'm in the highest learning period of my life.
Mm.
Highest learning period of my life.
If my team is watching, y'all need to learn from, y'all need to document what she just said. Y'all need to document what she just said. I love it. I love it. And I know the disciples asked Jesus, who was the greatest among you? And he said the servants, those that serve. So you are serving us right now. You are serving us through your books. Could you explain to me or tell the audience lessons that's learned, lessons that's learned from breaking the cycle of victimhood and embracing accountability? That's a mouthful, but could you break that down for us?
Well, I I know this to be true, and it's not just wisdom coming out of me as documented by researchers all over the world, is that bad things happen to people. You know, it's true. Bad things happen. And we're all people. So why not me? Why are bad things just supposed to happen to you? Why not me too? I mean, bad things happen. Life's not fair. That's reality. Now, we have a choice. Every single one of us is born with an innate ability to make choices.
Yes.
If we're afraid to make choices, there's some fear holding us back. And so, what we can do is choose to identify the fear. But we all have the ability to make a choice. So, when something bad happens, our choice is okay, I can either fall into victimhood and let this awful thing define me, or I can stop a minute and say, yes, this really sucked. It's really horrible. But now life goes on and I'm going to move on. And if there's anything I can gain from it, I'll take a look. But I'm going to move on. I'm not going to let that event define me and hold me captive. And by allowing something to hold you captive, then pulls you right into victimhood and you start a downward spiral. You need to interrupt that, and you can do it individually. We can, but it needs to be an intentional choice. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that you're in pain. Yes, this happened. I feel pain, but now it's a new minute. Now
Mm.
it's a new minute. And how I use this new minute or this new hour or this new day is my choice.
I like that. So would you actually put that together with the journey of, I like the way you say it in it you say it even in the book, the journey of being a personal mess. So I was like, really? I mean,
Yeah.
Lori, come on now. I thought I was raw, but I think she's the one that's really raw. You didn't hold back. Come on now, help us out here.
Well, I'll tell you what, for years, it especially when I had my for-profit company. I was selling software. I had a software company that was automating small manufacturing companies. And we did some phenomenal things. We were pioneers in computers, pioneers in telesales, pioneers in webinars, all of that kind of thing. And I won awards as far as being Entrepreneur of the Year or the best small company to work for. That was me professionally. And my self-worth was being defined professionally. My business success defined Lori Pappas. But personally, I had a hard time standing up for myself at home. I'd let my husband rule everything, and I wouldn't be emotionally available for my kids. And I really don't think I was a great mom when the kids were little. I think I'm a fabulous grandmother, but I really think I was a mess personally. But nobody could see that on the outside. What they saw was this very accomplished woman doing all these things that they wish they could do. So you never really know what's going on inside somebody else. You only know what's going on inside of you. And that's why it's so important to really look inside. And if you feel afraid, try to identify what is it that you're really afraid of? What is that that's holding you back? Are you afraid of failing, or are you afraid of not being liked, or are you afraid of being ridiculed? What is it you're afraid of? And once you can name the fear, you're over the hurdle. You're over the hurdle.
Name the fear.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, I might have to take that. Can I get that? I got it still there from you right there.
Yeah.
But I
You can
love
have
it. I
everything.
love it. Listen, y'all, this is why I'm just so honored to have her in my presence, because everything I do is usually from that spiritual side of us. Everything that I speak about. And she really just wrapped up my whole podcast. She came for her book, but she wrapped up my whole podcast, because I try to help y'all do self mastery, your broken whispers. And I'm listening to her and I'm like, oh, it's somebody else that thinks like me. That is so beautiful. And
And
we
doesn't that feel good?
it feels so good. And I'm like, my goodness, I was looking at your website, and she's gonna give all of that in a minute. I just wanted to just take the time to say thank you. But can I ask you one last question, and then I'll let you go ahead and say whatever it is that you want to say to the audience. I have to get this out too, because her book is, we gave you, like I always say, we gave you some appetizers. You have to go get her book. Okay? You must get her book. Now, you said something else that blew me away. Your book principles is for everyone. It's a universal. I mean, could you explain that to me?
Help me understand exactly what you're saying.
And I
That
do
my book is,
apologize. Your book resonates across genders, ages, cultural background. It's universal.
mm,
Was
mm-hmm,
that your
mm-hmm,
intention when you first made the book? You know what I'm saying? It's not specifically,
right.
yeah.
Um, I started with it being for women. And what's really fun for me is I've gotten phenomenal reviews from men. And I think it's because, you know, there's with men have wisdom too when they pull it all apart and they get down to that kernel level. And I'm so, I am so thrilled that it's considered something that's valuable universally, because it really comes from my heart. And I've been around a long time. And my gift, I was given certain gifts, and those gifts really are being discerning and being able to put things together in digestible bites. And I'm still working on that because I don't think I'm quite there yet on that one. Um, and the whole thing of it is that's why I did the dream framework, because I want people to say, okay, how do I give me some steps to challenge the status quo. Give me some steps to how I go about taking risks to explore opportunities. Give me some steps on how I can say no and set boundaries, or forgive myself and others, or win with the cards that I've been dealt. And because I really feel that it's important that people have an action plan. If you want magic to happen, you need to be in that magical space, I mean, pretty hard for magic to happen if you're sitting in your closet with a blanket over your head. You really want to be out and in a space that allows you to experience the magic of yes.
That is
You
so
know,
beautiful. Mm,
and Phyllis, there's another thing I really want to tell your audience,
yes.
and that is if you're in the middle then of trying some of these principles and you're feeling afraid and you're feeling alone, just reach out your hand and say, Lori, hold my hand, and I'll be there. I don't have to be standing next to you, but we're all connected in this space. And if we're open, we can transmit energy to each other. And I would love to have the honor of helping you face your fears.
Beautiful. And the rest of the stuff, excuse me, that you can get from her, tools for transformation and everything, you're going to go to her website. Again, what is your website?
It's LoriPappas.com. So it's LORIPAPPAS.com.
And we are
And
grateful. And I'm sorry, did you have something else you wanted to add? Did you want
I'm
to add
just
your social
saying,
medias?
no, I'm just saying that at LoriPappas.com, you can connect with me directly. You can connect with my Facebook group, the Wise Woman Sisterhood. I would love to have people join. I have a newsletter. You can subscribe to that there or just check it out. Everything really happens from my website. You can buy the book. So
Yes.
that's the one place that really is the hub.
And for my audience, we will put everybody that we interview, we will put this Master Queen book in my description. And then as you see, as you heard, you can go over to her website and everything like that. We are thankful. It's a lot that we didn't get a chance to cover, and I'm pretty sure you will be on. The door is open for you, okay, to come back. You also, I want to say congratulations on the book, but also on American Writing Award, Mind and Spirit um, Book Awards. She is a lady of great wisdom. She is a lady of great knowledge. She's a humble woman. And yes, she is the author of The Magic of Yes. Thank you so much. And I believe you said it was something you wanted to say to your audience about me. What was that?
Oh, it is. It is. It
Yes.
is. Thank
Oh,
you
I
so
forgot.
much. So here's a plea that I would make to all of you, dear listeners. Would you please write a review on Self Whispers Unplugged? Review the podcast. And in that review, if you would please mention something that was some little thing that was a takeaway for you, because then what'll happen is Phyllis will share that with me, and that will help me be better at my messaging. And I'll know what it is that's resonating. So please do that through writing a review for Phyllis's Self Whispers Unplugged, and mention that if there's some little thing that you were able to take away from today, I'd really
Take
appreciate it.
away. Thank you. I am beyond honored. Thank you for coming into my space. And while everybody heard her, while you're there leaving a review or comment, go ahead and subscribe. Okay.
Hey, that'd be great.
Because I don't know who you know. But we
Exactly.
right now are out of here. And remember, if
Okay.
loving yourself is right, you don't want to be wrong.
Bye.